welcome to America Uncanceled. This is Mercy Schlapp. Of course, my sweet husband, Matt Schlapp, is, traveling all across the country and also is leaving to CPAC Hungary next week. But he is first headed to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to join our dear friend and my next guest, Charlie Gerow, the Republican gubernatorial candidate running in Pennsylvania. There's a big primary that's happening next Tuesday, May 17th. And so I want to welcome to our show, of course, I call him Uncle Charlie. He's part of the whole CPAC clan, Charlie Gerow. Thanks for being with me today.
Mercy, it's great to be with you, and as thrilled as we are to be with Matt tonight in Pittsburgh, we're even more thrilled to be with you here in Pennsylvania on Saturday. Somehow, Mercy, you always trump our dear friend Matt.
Oh my goodness! Well, don't tell him, Charlie. I mean, come on, he's too sensitive. He's just too sensitive. No, but I'm really excited to be on the campaign trail on Saturday. I mean, you've been nonstop traveling across the state of Pennsylvania. This is a critical race because we have to ensure that a Republican wins in November and we take out a Democrat governor. I think, and just not only are you our dear friend, but I've worked side by side with you. You are so ready for this moment. You are so ready for this job. What are you telling the people of Pennsylvania why it's important for them to support you?
Well, it really is job one that we defeat Josh Shapiro in November, because as bad as Tom Wolf has been, and Mercy, he was called the most liberal governor in America. That's pretty tough to do, given that you've got Newsom and Cuomo and others in office at the time that was said. But as bad as Tom Wolf has been, Josh Shapiro would be worse. Shapiro has made it very, very clear that what he really wants to be is president of the United States. And if he were to be elected governor, he would take a dramatically radical left-wing progressive tack, because that's where primary votes are in the Democrat presidential sweepstakes. So we've got to defeat Josh Shapiro, and that's what I've been talking about since day one. Not throwing mud at other Republicans, but rather taking on Josh Shapiro every single day as hard as we possibly can.
Well, it's interesting because I know the Wall Street Journal just came out with a piece today in their editorial page saying the Mastriano pileup in Pennsylvania, talking about a fractured GOP might give the Democrats 4 more years as governor. And then I thought one of the main points here was the fact of electability. I think primary voters have to pick a person with the right temperament and the ability to actually win in a general election. So I think it's important for Pennsylvania voters to be thinking about that. I know that was the approach that happened here in Virginia with Glenn Youngkin. During the primary, there was all these great candidates. The reality is that the rural voter out in Sperryville, Virginia, and the what I call the suburban mom here in Northern Virginia all kept telling me the same thing. They're like, we know Glenn can win in a general election. I think this applies very much to your race, Charlie. You can win not only the primary, but winning that general election, because you can bring in those independent voters that are so frustrated with the current state of affairs. I mean, right now we're dealing with a huge baby formula shortage around the country. I have moms that are reaching out to me saying, what do I do? I mean, Charlie, you're a man of action. What's your goal as we're moving into, what's your action as we're moving into this race? And what is your message as you're talking to the people of Pennsylvania?
Well, electability really is at the core of our message, Mercedes. And when Congressman G.T. Thompson, the dean of our congressional delegation, first called me and asked me to run, the thing that he said was, Charlie, we've got all these candidates. And at that time, I think we had 14 or 15 Republicans. We're down to 9. But he said, Charlie, you're the one who can beat Josh Shapiro. And so every day, Mercy, we've been out on the campaign trail doing more events in a single day than a lot of these candidates are in a week. And so the message is getting across. And in the final 5 days of this campaign, I think voters really are starting to say, who can beat Josh Shapiro? Because if we get a candidate at the top of the ticket that gets decimated in the fall, we run the risk of losing our legislature here in Pennsylvania too, Mercy, and that would be incredibly tragic. The one thing that has held up the conservative principles that you and I hold so dear over the course of the last 8 years has been a Republican General Assembly.
Well, let me ask you, a lot of people don't know your personal story. I think it's quite inspirational. I know you posted about your mom on Mother's Day, which was one of the best posts I had seen. Tell us that story and how that really has shaped who you are as a person.
Well, I posted a picture, Mercy, of my adopted mom holding her AR-15. She's 98 years old, tough as nails, the most wonderful woman on the planet, and still willing to defend her rights and her property with a good old AR-15. But as you may know, Mercy, despite the fact that I've lived in Pennsylvania longer than any of the other candidates, I wasn't born here. I was born in a slum in southern Brazil. And my birth mother realized that she couldn't take care of me, so she took me to a little Catholic mission and asked me to be put up for adoption. And she wanted only one thing for her baby. She wanted me to come to the United States of America because she believed that here I might be able to learn how to read. And so I was adopted by Christian missionaries, brought to the United States. We moved to Pennsylvania. I've lived here all my life. I've never left, went to school here, have worked here. My entire career has been here. But my birth mother, thank God, did the right thing, and I was so incredibly blessed to be adopted by two of the most wonderful people God ever made, my mom and dad.
Why do you think it's so important to run? I know that it's a huge personal sacrifice to put your name out there. Obviously, candidates get attacked all the time. Like, why did you say, okay, this is my moment, and why you would be the best candidate I know why you would be the best candidate to be the Pennsylvania governor, but what made you really think, okay, this is my moment?
Well, when Congressman Thompson called me, it was really kind of out of the blue, Mercy. The last thing on my mind was running for governor. I really wanted to dedicate the next 10 years of my life to serving your husband and the rest of our directors at CPAC as the vice chairman of CPAC. But when I thought about it and what he had asked me to do, I realized that we really are in a battle for the heart and soul of this country. And those battle lines come right through Pennsylvania because we have an opportunity this year to reject the big government, big spending, arbitrary and capricious mandate, edict, top-down nonsense that we've gotten from Tom Wolf and from Josh Shapiro over the course of the last 8 years, and return to individual liberty and personal freedom and hope and economic growth and prosperity for every Pennsylvanian. And so that's why I wanted to take the years that I've put in and the things that I've learned and put them into a campaign, put my candidacy before the Republican voters in this primary and say, here I am. If you like what you see, please vote for me. If you don't, blame it on Matt and Mercy.
Well, let me ask you, though, obviously the economy seems to be the very big story these days on the news. We're seeing inflation spike up to 8.3%. I was just talking to Kevin Hassett, who was the former chairman of the Council on Economic Advisors. He's basically saying we're entering into a recession. This is something that is truly unsustainable and putting a huge burden on families across the country. How can we deal with this, especially in a state like Pennsylvania, in dealing with these economic woes, with the stress that so many families are experiencing right now with higher gas prices, higher food prices, and obviously a shortage of basic supplies that we need?
Yeah, Mercy, people are really hurting across the country, but especially here in Pennsylvania, where we've got a governor that has constantly asked taxpayers to dig deeper and deeper into their pockets and shell out their hard-earned dollars to a bureaucracy that hasn't served them very well. And so as we're experiencing, record high gas prices and, needing a mortgage to fill up your car, difficulties getting what you want at the grocery store, and if you find it, paying exponentially more than you did just a year ago, folks are having a hard time making ends meet. They're having a tough time figuring out their family budget. And so as governor, the first thing I'll do is to reduce our tax burden on Pennsylvania citizens, because allowing people to keep more of what they earn and decide for themselves how those hard-earned dollars are spent is a benefit to our economy, to our society, to individual families and individual people. And so I want to see that happen right away. I don't have any of my neighbors, Mercy, coming up to me and saying, gee, my life would be a little bit better if only my taxes were higher.
No kidding. Let me ask you, you're known as the happy warrior in the conservative movement. And really, truly, you are. You know how to bring people together to make things happen. You're amazing when it comes to dealing with crisis and just being level-headed, very steady, and I can tell you it's very appreciated for the Schlapps in particular. You're also pro-life, pro-Second Amendment. You tweeted out the, quote, "The radical left now openly supports infanticide and pretends they are somehow on the moral high ground here. My opponent, Josh Shapiro, who's the Democrat candidate, supports the same. We are never going to give up the fight for life. History will not look upon comments like these favorably." These were comments that Psaki talked about the fact that a reporter asked, does the president support abortion until the moment of birth? Psaki, the press secretary, former press secretary now, said yes. I mean, the Democrats have just gone to an extreme on this position of abortion. It's not about women's health care. It's about literally killing the baby. Your thought?
Mercy, it's tragic and it's sad and it's really unbelievable because the people that have described themselves as quote unquote pro-choice for years have said that they wanted abortion to be rare. That's gone completely out the window, with Josh Shapiro saying that he wants more abortions in Pennsylvania, that he says, quote unquote, these are his words, abortion is health care. I mean, that's a truly radical position when you think about it. It's not one that's supported by the vast majority of Pennsylvanians and the vast majority of Americans. It really is a very radical position. And the thing that I'm so grateful to our Lord for is that it appears that we're going to have an opportunity in every state across the country, and here in Pennsylvania as well, to reverse that trend of 60 million plus abortions having been committed in this country since Roe versus Wade, and provide maximum protections for unborn children and for women.
Right.
And I look forward to working with our General Assembly to make sure that's done.
Yeah, let the states decide, let the voters decide. As we know, Roe v. Wade likely will be overruled. It's unconstitutional. And the Democrats, they tried to codify the law yesterday, basically allowing for abortion until the moment of birth. And thank God for, I would say, Joe Manchin, who literally was one of those Democrats. They couldn't get to the 60 votes because it was so extreme. I also want to bring up another tweet you posted talking about the SCOTUS document that was leaked, basically saying that it's a reprehensible move, which no doubt was done in an attempt to intimidate justices of the highest court. The radical left is tearing this country apart at the seams, putting personal agenda ahead of the rule of law. I got to tell you, watching all these images of these quote unquote protesters, these activists in front of the justices' homes, following the leak of Justice Alito's draft ruling or a draft opinion. I mean, this is what you see in other countries. This is not what you want to witness here in the United States. I mean, our justices deserve the complete protection of the Secret Service, in addition to the fact that they should not be bullied by those from the left.
Couldn't say it better, Mercy. And you know what's interesting is you don't see conservatives doing this kind of stuff. You really don't. And that leak was so reprehensible. And I understand that the court is meeting today as we speak to discuss that leak. And I'm hopeful that they will discover who actually did it and then prosecute that individual to the fullest extent of the law, because it was shameful and it was, in my judgment, illegal. And I hope that they're able to determine exactly who did it and then prosecute that person. The good news, of course, is that if the opinion that was leaked actually turns out to be the court's final decision, we'll be blessed with the opportunity to save a lot of lives.
I know another issue that you care deeply about, it's something that we dealt with in the 2020 election, is election security, election integrity, making sure that there's voter ID. This is an issue that I know Pennsylvania has been struggling with for quite some time. What's your sense on how we can solve that problem when it comes to ensuring that only the legal votes count?
Yeah, I mean, Mercy, election integrity is so vital, because if we can't trust the vote, there aren't any winners. And the other thing that I keep saying along the campaign trail, because people say, well, there was maybe some fraud, but it wasn't massive fraud. Any fraudulent vote, one fraudulent vote that's cast, cancels out the vote of a law-abiding citizen, and we simply cannot allow that to happen. The really good thing about Pennsylvania is that here the governor appoints the Secretary of State. Most states, as you know, Mercy, the Secretary of State who administers statewide elections is elected by the people. But here, the governor gets to make that choice. And so as governor, I will make sure that the next Secretary of State is two things. One, somebody who is experienced in administering and running elections so that they know what they're doing. And two, that they are fundamentally, unequivocally, and absolutely committed to the rule of law, because the previous Secretary of State here in Pennsylvania changed the rules in the middle of the game, constantly moved the goalposts, told one county you can have one set of rules, and the county immediately next door was permitted to have a different set of rules. That's something we simply cannot tolerate and cannot allow. And additionally, Act 77, which gave Pennsylvania the so-called no-excuse mail-in voting, needs to be repealed. It was unconstitutional on its face, Mercy. I hope that none of our viewers buy the nonsense that, well, it was just changed by Governor Wolf in the courts. It was unconstitutional on its face. And the Commonwealth Court here in Pennsylvania ruled that not that long ago. So Act 77 has to go. We need to have rules that make it easy to vote, but impossible to cheat, because every vote that's cast ought to be properly cast. Every vote that's properly cast ought to be properly counted.
So want to get your final thoughts here. What sets you apart from the rest of these primary candidates?
Mercy, I think you summed it up in the very top of the show, where you said it's about electability. We've got to have a candidate that can take Josh Shapiro on at those 3 nights in October on a debate stage where Shapiro is going to be required to face his Republican opponent. And I think throughout the debates in the spring, voters across Pennsylvania have seen who's fundamentally prepared to take him on, who knows how to frame the issues, who knows how to deliver the message, who knows what the policy issues facing Pennsylvania really are, and instead of simply making chest-thumping speeches, has real ideas, real plans, real opportunities for Pennsylvania's future. And so I think that's what's going to be the thing that drives our campaign over the course of the next 5 days, as voters, so many of whom are still undecided, begin to think, who is it that can best represent the Republican Party in the November election? And I think increasingly voters are saying that that person is Charlie Gerow.
Well, you've got the heart of a lion. You're a great communicator like President Ronald Reagan, and you're a fighter like President Trump. So we're so honored to endorse you. You have the CPAC endorsement, you have the Schlapp endorsement, and we can't wait to go out with you on the campaign trail and meet all these great patriots in Pennsylvania. It's one of my favorite states to go visit. So looking forward to being with you on Saturday. And for all of you out there, Charlie, where can they go to learn more about your campaign and the events you're having in the next few days?
The website is Charlie4, F-O-R, not the numeral, Charlie4governor.com, Charlie4governor.com. But anybody that wants to call me personally, Mercy, they can pick up the phone and dial 717-877-8194, and I'll answer it, 717-877-8194. And you know that's really my personal cell number.
Yes, it is. So when you get a flood of calls, Charlie will be picking it up on the other end of it. But Charlie Gerow, thank you so much. He's our gubernatorial candidate in this great Commonwealth. Are you guys Commonwealth too, like Virginia is?
We are a Commonwealth.
Yeah, Commonwealth.
One of 4 Commonwealths.
That's right, of Pennsylvania. And we're so honored to have you on our show, and we thank you so much. And again, I'll see you this Saturday.
Looking forward to it, Mercy, and thanks so much for having me on CPAC Live.
All right, gang. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And again, I look forward to, you're going to have me again all next week, pretty much by myself, because Matt Schlapp is gone. But I might drag Larry O'Connor to come join me next week, but he doesn't know yet. So I'll give him a quick call. But thank you all. Remember to follow us on social media at CPAC, at M Schlapp, at Mercedes Schlapp. There's always a lot of great analysis there, and continue to spread the word. CPAC Dallas is coming. CPAC Texas is coming in the first part of August. So register early, get yourself ready to go. We're going to have all the greatest speakers, And we'll be also sharing a lot of content from CPAC Hungary, which is happening next week, which I think is going to be very exciting. And we've also got CPAC Mexico in September. Lots going on. But as you know, for us, CPAC is not just about the conferences. It's about connecting with you every day of the year. God bless you all.